Welcome to OLC 40. This is week 6. We are on class 20 and we are working on unit 3. Ways to reach me. I can be reached in the studio at 1-800-465-7144. You can reach me at the WASA office at 1-800-667-3703. The work can be faxed at 1-800-463-7852. You can email me any questions about your work at jillian.percy@nnecschools.org. You can also send a message to me at any time regarding your work, and I will reply as soon as possible. If you want to listen to a recording again, it's posted on YouTube at capital G, capital P, ERCY space, capital W, AHSA. Okay, so I wanted to kind of finish up what we were talking about yesterday before I move on to the next thing. So I'll take the star off. It's just kind of my reminder of where we were at. We were talking about careers, and we were in the job bank by the career plan. And think about much if I went there or not. Hopefully you've made an account because we're going to use it for today. We've also got an assignment tomorrow that it kind of works on. So you do want to do these. It's kind of useful. All right. This last quiz looks primarily at whether you like to work with data, people, things, or some combination of the two. Some of us have very strong preferences in this area. What's your preference? I used to think that I mostly liked working with information when I was younger. And then later I realized I really enjoyed working with people too. And that combination of both is what led me into teaching. Let me see if I can pull this up. I know we did this a little bit yesterday, but just in case you weren't there. So it's not the first thing you see. You have to go down to here. And work activities is the one we're talking about right now. Let's see really quick. I find it kind of interesting because it's things that I hadn't really thought about before. So how do you prefer to work with data and information? You prefer identifying obvious differences and similarities between people, data, or things, following simple instructions or procedures based on your understanding or memory of the information provided, doing calculations or using math to answer a question or decide on the best course of action, put together, collect, store, sort, or update information, examine, evaluate existing information from different angles by identifying the underlying principles, facts, or reasons behind it, develop step-by-step processes, manage a schedule, or plan an itinerary to organize an activity, project, or event, discover new facts or knowledge by combining elements from several sources. So I'm just going to kind of grab something here. People. Would you rather not work with people? Help people with their tasks by attending to their most basic or intermediate needs, which could be something like nursing or something like working as a cook and feeding people. I'm not going to go through all of them because I want to kind of show you the next thing. But there's a really wide range from not wanting to work with people at all to leading a group, to amusing people, to providing advice and guidance on complex problems that may be resolved by legal, scientific, clinical, spiritual, or other professional principles. So there's all sorts of ways to work with people. I'm grabbing teaching or training. How do you prefer to work with things? I'm going to just choose not working with things. The only exception would be if they had included art supplies here, because then I'd be all over that. But for some reason, they really didn't include that. I would think that that counts as something that's a thing. You could, I suppose, say use your hands, bodies, or tools with great dexterity to move, guide, place, or connect small objects. It just ends up sounding more mechanical than creative. So anyways, that's where we come to. Oh, did not let me do it. I thought I did. Oh, you had to rank these. I forgot. Okay, so I'm going to rank. This one is 1. Here's 2. Here's 3. I forgot that part. Sorry. And then I'm trying to show you a certain something. So it talks about what you like to do, but here's the cool thing. After you do these, it shows you different occupations that relate to what you like to do. And you can sort them. So I can say no formal schooling. What are some things that do this that involve no formal schooling? Sports scouts, modeling and finishing school instructors, home building and renovating managers. Or say I'm finished high school. What are some things that I could do if I finish high school? Or what are some things I could do if I finish college? I really like this particular element because it allows you to look at how much school you have, but almost how much school you want to get. The other cool thing is, let's say I go on to management consultants and click on that. It will then tell me a whole bunch of management information about the job. I can go here and learn more. And you can see description, can talk about wages, can talk, oh, so you can see from low to median to high. Wow. Prospects, like whether there's going to be jobs in the future. Oh, so actual job postings. This is just the really cool part about this. This is why I wanted you to see this particular job site, is there's just so much there once you're kind of finished doing the quizzes that can really help you give you some ideas, not just about like jobs, but like, okay, if I want to do that job, then what kind of schooling would I want to do in order to get that job? Which I think we talk about in one of the other courses. So just some really interesting stuff here. I really strongly advise you to take a look at this stuff. It's not for straight up the assignment, but it's really helpful. Okay, we did that already. This is my advice. This is not an assignment. This is advice. As you finish each quiz, take a snapshot or download each set of results. What did it say? What did you notice? Was there any overlap in the different quizzes? What sort of jobs did they suggest that might interest you? And how much schooling did these jobs require? And then I talk about the fact that you can sort for different types of schooling. Okay, so if you've done all these quizzes, by now you should gather lots of information about yourself to help us write a good resume and cover letter. You should have some information about your learning style, your work values, and your strengths. You should also have some idea about your interests, your abilities, and your work activities. You may have even looked into and found a few possible careers of things you might want to do. Or have even looked into what kind of schooling is needed to do those careers. So let's look at letters next. That's the kind of writing we're going to be doing. Most of us have seen or written a friendly letter. These often include a date, a greeting, body paragraphs on personal stuff, a closing, and a signature. So here's an example, 26th of May, 2010. Dear Evie, I am in Paris, which is a place in France. I have been eating some of the yummy food. They have the best cakes and pastries here. My favorite are the chocolate croissants. Today I went to the Louvre Museum. It is enormous. I saw some very famous paintings and some big sculptures here. What painting might you like to see if you visited the Louvre? Yours truly, Gabby XXX. So this might be an auntie writing to her child or whatever. Child, niece, nephew. Now, we're really going to be working on business letters, but I wanted to kind of remind you what a friendly letter looks like. Business letters will look a lot the same. There's just a few differences, okay? In a minute, we're going to look at an example of a business letter where the different parts are labeled. And I want you to think about, as we're looking at it, what do you notice about the letter? And what is different about it from compared to looking at the friendly letter? Okay, so here's an example. Here is the business letter, the address of the recipient, so who you're sending it to. Oh, they've done this very odd. So here they've got the address of the sender, and here they've got the recipient. I've usually seen that these days anyways, the sender goes up top and then the recipient goes underneath. This is still a format that's doable. Salutation or the greeting. If you don't know the person's name, you would just write Dear Sir or Madame. It uses very formal language. It's not so chatty. You have an ending, sincerely, yours sincerely. Those are really common endings for business. Obviously, you don't write love if you don't know them. Date. The date can go here. I've also seen it over here on this other side. An opening statement or an opening paragraph, usually you're going to state right away why you're writing this and what's the point, right? It's a business letter, so you're not going to make a bunch of chit chat. Paragraphs, each point made needs to have its own paragraph. You want it to be really simple, easy to skim over and see what the point is. Using paragraphs as a structure helps the recipients understand the points being made in the letter. Closing statement. A lot of times this can be like a call for action. Like if you're putting in an order, here's where you'd remind them what the order is. If you're applying for a job, here's where you'd remind them that you want the job. So it's very similar, but there's just a few small differences. This kind of looks at some of the differences. So the nature, this is going to be commercial, it's impersonal, it's universal in nature. Personal letter obviously is fully personal. Purpose, you can write a business letter for all sorts of purposes, but it's basically for way of doing business, right? It could be sending an invoice, paying a check, it could be ordering stuff, it could be trying to talk to somebody about coming to work for you, all sorts of things. Personal letters are generally based on giving information about your family or your person. Scope, business letters are wide in scope. Anything a business has to do could be in a letter. Personal letters are a lot more limited. It's usually only really talking about your own personal life. A structure, there's generally an officially recognized structure that most business letters follow. Personal letters don't follow any recognized structure. They can do whatever they like. I wouldn't say any recognized structure, but you really can do whatever you like. No one's going to be like looking over it and judging you in any way. Formality, business letters are generally pretty formal. Personal letters are very informal. Size, a business letter is generally very concise and it's going to avoid anything irrelevant. It's really not going to be chatty. It's going to get right to the point. Personal letter might be very small or it could be really large. Types, business letters can have all different types. Like I talked about, invoices, payments, job offers, donations, all sorts of things. Personal letters, you can't really categorize them. They're just personal letters. Business letter salutation is like sir, dear Mr. Personal letters could also be dear, but it could be my dear, my beloved, whatever, right? Number 9, business letter language should be very easy, simple, very clear, very understandable. This is not the time to get poetic. Personal letters may be easy, may be emotional, may be poetic, right? May sound very beautiful. We're not looking for beauty in business letters. We're looking for simplicity. Copy. Business letters is usually a copy. The secretary may have one. There is going to be a digital copy. A personal letter, people aren't usually making an extra copy of them unless there's some very specific reason why you would want to, right? Number 11, business letter is direct and it may be very persuasive. Like if a business was trying to talk somebody into working with them or providing them with a discount or trying to sell their services, right? Personal letters, now I'm going to disagree here. It mostly uses direct, but a personal letter could use persuasion. Like maybe you're trying to persuade your boyfriend to get back with you or persuade your best friend to go on a trip with you. So I wouldn't say it would never use persuasive. It's just not necessarily a common thing. Anyways, okay. So lesson 14 is just generally, this whole lesson is about applying for work. So a letter of application, known more commonly as a cover letter, is normally required by employers, along with a resume, from potential employees who are interested in more permanent types of jobs that generally pay higher salaries. The type of jobs for which a cover letter and resume are requested by employers are ones as well that there are usually more qualifications needed for. For example, jobs that college and university graduates would be applying for in most cases would require a formal application consisting of a cover letter and resume. A resume will provide an employer with essentially the same information as that is found in an application form, but the formatting or like the layout is the decision of the person applying for a job. A resume is a much more formal channel of communication, which demonstrates organization skills in addition to the necessary content. A cover letter is kind of your introduction to your resume, and it's your chance to be a little more personal than a resume generally is. It's going to state that you're applying for a certain position or that you're hoping for a position at the company if they don't have one. You're going to give a few words about your education, work experience, and skills, especially as they relate to the position you're applying for. You can also inquire about the possibility of an interview and thank the person for their time. A cover letter these days should be a computer printout, except for your signature near the bottom. It's 1 page or less. It's never more than one. No one's going to read it if it's more than one. It needs to be neat, with no errors in spelling, grammar, or punctuation. An example of a cover letter in the block format follows on the next page. This is probably the most common format. Here's an example. Oh, I'm going to grab it down here. So here is the sender. Now you would normally put like your name up here, I think, to be honest with you. But anyways, your address, I would not put the date there. I'd put the date down here. The who you're applying to, here's your greeting, here's your body paragraph, there's your close, and here's your name. It's also mentioned that you enclosed a resume. I don't find people need to be that formal these days, but you could certainly mention that if you want to. So here's an example of what they wrote. Dear Mr. Mrs., I would pick one, right? If you know their name, I would also, a lot of people don't like these titles anymore. I would just drop the titles if you could. Like if you know the manager is Sarah Anderson, I would just write Dear Sarah Anderson. I would not choose them just because it's such a controversial thing these days. I would like to be considered for the position of cashier at your store as advertised. At present, I'm a student with Wassa Distance Education Center and need only 2 credits in order to graduate with my OSSD. One course I am taking this term is OLC 40, which focuses on reading and writing as communication skills for the workplace. I now feel confident that I can be an effective team player at your store and that I can handle the duties of cashier. I worked as a cashier part-time last year at the Northern store for Pickle Lake. I'm an honest and hardworking person and also friendly and outgoing. I have good oral and organizational skills as required for this position and have some knowledge of building materials because they're applied to home hardware. I am willing to learn as much as possible in order to do my work successfully, so I am hoping that you will give me an opportunity in this position. I can be reached anytime for an interview at 928 1234. Thank you for your time. Yours sincerely, Debbie Snow. Okay, 2 things. I would not in any course, unless you've literally never ever worked, I would not mention what courses you were taking in high school or discuss them at all. The only way it would come up is if they specifically said, hey, we want to make sure you're taking accounting. And then you could say, just so you know, I have taken a beginning accounting course. If they aren't asking for a specific course, I would not mention it. Okay, I'm just going to go on to the next thing. So here is your assignment. I'm going to discuss it and then we're going to discuss how to do it. So the assignment is writing a cover letter and it's worth 30 marks. Following the sample cover letter that we just showed you, your task with this assignment will be to carefully read a job advertisement chosen for a newspaper, example, Sioux Lookout Bulletin, and write a cover letter in response. You are to do a rough copy, handwritten, of your letter, and then revise and edit it as necessary. You are then to produce a final copy of this letter on the computer. Both the rough copy and the final copy of your cover letter are to be submitted for marking. As you prepare to develop your letter, think about your purpose, your audience, and provide the most important details of information you can as an introduction to your resume. Once again, there should be no mistakes in spelling, grammar, or punctuation. The rough copy will be worth 15. The final copy will be worth 15 as well. I want to point out, job ads can certainly be found in the Sioux Lookout Bulletin or any other paper you choose. However, there is also a local job site where you can search as well. That's what a lot of people in this area do. I don't know if everyone has seen this, but I wanted to kind of quickly flip over there because it really is a useful job site if you've never seen it. On a sec. So it's called the Sioux Hudson Employment Services. There's information for job seekers, employers, services, resources. I generally go down here to current jobs. And then it's always listed kind of in order. So the newest jobs are up here and they slowly get older as you go back. You can see who the company is, where they're wanting you to work, where they posted it, and what the job is. So if I clicked on something like this, it tells me all sorts of information about the qualifications that you need. Here's the benefits, hours, here's the closing date, here's who I send it to, all this kind of information. So it is totally acceptable to use this site rather than just a newspaper ad, okay? This has a lot more information, and I think it's a good practice to use this because really, if you live in this area, this is the source for finding jobs. Okay. This is the very generic mark sheet. I don't like it. I didn't design it, but it's what you guys have, so I'm showing it to you. This is how it will be looked at. This is the much more detailed. Sorry, I forgot to do the top here. I'm going to be very general here. B, C, and D. I'll be looking for, does it follow the cover letter format? It can cover it with excellent effectiveness, clearly follows some errors or many errors, has a clear purpose, both in the rough and the cover letter. Purpose is not stated or a significant amount of the letter is unrelated. The purpose is unclearly stated or may include some information that's not relevant. Purpose is clearly stated and most information reflects the purpose. Purpose is stated extremely well and almost all information in the letter reflects the purpose. So for example, let's say you're applying for a job as a cashier and for some reason you mention, I'm just finishing up baseball right now. Unless you're, applying to work at a sports store, the fact that you're doing baseball is not important. Don't mention it. Shows awareness of the audience, including the style and the tone, both the rough and the good copy. I'm saying cover and good copy should show an awareness of the audience. So who is the audience? Well, for this case, I know I'm reading it, but I'm not really the audience. The audience is whoever you're applying for the job for. So if you're applying for a job at Home Hardware and you're applying to the boss there, that's who your audience is. If you're applying to a really big company, there might be like a human resources hiring manager. So keep in mind that person. Be writing for them, not for me. Okay. Details include personality traits, skills, and work experience. So personality traits are things like enthusiastic, hardworking, determined, that sort of thing. Skills are specific things you can do. I can type at a speed of 80 words per minute. I am, comfortable using Excel to do spreadsheets, very specific things. Work experience obviously is things you've done. I've worked as a cashier, I've worked as a stock person, I've worked as a waitress, specific work experience. The good copy must show revisions. So I'm going to be comparing the rough copy to the good copy. So they must be similar, right? They shouldn't be completely different. But it must show revisions in the wording, sentence structure, grammar, and in paragraphing. Okay. Now, it's fine if you did stuff in sentence structure and didn't do anything in paragraphing, but those are the areas I'm going to be looking at. Okay. The good copy must be edited for spelling, punctuation, and capitalization errors. So these things are the two ones that only really count in the good copy. These ones count for everything. Oh, we looked at that already. Oh, I also grabbed you another couple of sample letters. Here they've formatted it a little bit differently. I don't know that I like it. I'm just kind of showing it. The nice thing about this one, let me see if I can make it a little tiny bit bigger, is it also kind of gives you some sample wording. A cover letter allows you to professionally introduce yourself to a prospective employee. Your goal in writing the cover letter should be to encourage the employer to read your resume and consider you for a specific position. So not quite. Oh, but here's kind of nice. Highlight your achievements, skills, experiences, and training that are relevant to the position you want to get. However, avoid simply repeating the information you included in your resume. Tailor your cover letter to each employer and job. Since you're applying for specific roles, give specific examples and events that demonstrate your ability to perform well if given the position. So guys, this is one example of a format. Here's another one. I don't like this one as much. It's got kind of a broader format and it's just got the fake words, just so you don't get you're like, that doesn't make any sense. No, it's not meant to. It's just kind of showing you the format. Okay, so if you're going to write a cover letter, first you have to pick out your what job ad you want to respond to. Now, it's up to you. You can pick one that is something that you could apply for, or you could go wild card. You could pick one that, right now you couldn't possibly go for, but you're hoping in the future, like occupational therapist or nurse or, whatever, something that you might not have the training for right now because you're in high school, but is maybe what you're aiming for and you want to practice it. That's fine. Okay. Again, I'm not checking up on whether you actually have the qualifications. I don't actually care. As far as the assignment goes, I'm not marking that part. All I'm marking is whether your writing is good. Okay. So don't worry about that part. We did all those little personality and quizzes. I think it's helpful for you, but for the sake of this assignment, I'm not worried about what's true. I'm worried about how well you write. Okay. Different job ads can be very specific or not quite as specific. So here's an example. Let me see if it'll let me pull it up. This one I think is it didn't, hang on. Oh, yes, it did. Okay, so this one is from October 2nd. It's Sioux Lookout Home Hardware. They're looking for a sales clerk. The job is full-time and permanent. It was posted in September, but they've kind of reposted, I guess, basically. Salary, they're not giving you a specific salary. They're doing the kind of vague, can measure it with education or experience. Fair enough. Objective, this is kind of useful because they're telling you, we're looking for someone who can give prompt, friendly, efficient service to customers, advise them on appropriate merchandise and related items, process transactions using retail software, ticketing and replenishing merchandise, inventory maintenance, general housekeeping of the shelves, loss prevention and restocking. So this is telling you right here what kind of things they're looking for. So here is personality traits. So if you're prompt, friendly, and efficient, mention that in your cover letter, right? If you've done some of these skills before, like for example, processing transactions at a till, that's what they're talking about here. Great, then mention that so that they know that you've got the skills needed to do the job. Let's see. Education or skills required. Okay, so this is very vague, kind of on purpose. So excellent customer service skills. Everybody has their own interpretation of what that means. Ability to work a flexible schedule, including Saturdays. The fact that they mentioned that, that's hardcore. They are not going to change on that one. Excellent communication skills. This cover letter is your chance to show them that. High school graduation or equivalent. Equivalent means they would take a GED. Prior retail experience is beneficial. Physical ability to lift 25 pounds is an asset. Okay. And then duties and responsibilities, lists all the things you're going to do. Some of these are very vague. Some of them are very specific. Building special delays and signage for sales, promotions, and other special events. Taking appropriate safety precautions. Yes, okay. Keeping stock in storage area. Participate in regular cycle counting. So all these are things that if you've done these things before, it's too many to mention all at once in a cover letter, but I would pick out which things do you think are really important. Like assisting customers with carrying out large or heavy items is probably not something you're going to mention in the cover letter. They'll be able to talk to you about whether you're able to lift heavy things, right? But other things might be very, very specific, like the building displays, right? Let me see here. What else is on here? Now, so here they go. It's just a sales clerk, but they're asking you for a resume, cover letter, and references. Here's who you're applying to. Melissa Bortless, HR manager. Okay, so that's who you're applying to. It's really, really clear. Okay. Oh, let's see what this okay. Service manager. Okay, so this one is an example of one that didn't have quite as much information. So it gives you some information on their company, and then it just has this one little sentence. As the service manager, you will be responsible for ensuring quality customer service and managing the daily operations of the service department, including scheduling technicians and managing workflow. Now, if you've already worked for a service department, then you probably know what that entails. But if you haven't, they haven't really given you a lot of details to go on. They mentioned some very kind of vague things here. Strong organizational skills, ability to balance multiple demands, excellent interpersonal skills and a positive attitude, ability to monitor and accomplish service department targets and goals, strong communication and problem solving skills. Well, this is one where you're going to have to do some thinking like, okay, they're being a bit vague here. What are some things they might be looking for? Well, it's the service manager for a car dealership. So if you know a lot of stuff about car dealerships or like cars, then you would want to mention that. If you had previous experience working in a car dealership, you would mention that, even though they don't ask for it, right? They don't mention anything about that. You're going to be managing people. Have you done that before? Have you been a manager? Even if you've been a manager for a small store, you would want to mention that. Or maybe you never worked, but as a volunteer, you were the manager of like a volunteer team that went up and did camp counseling or something like that. It doesn't have to be necessarily work experience, but you would want to show that you know how to manage people, because that's a key part of the job, even though they aren't asking for it. So some people who write the job descriptions, they're super detailed and it gives you lots to work with for your cover letter. Others, like this one, are a little bit more vague, and you're going to have to kind of make some good guesses as to what they might be looking for. Okay, where are we? Good. Remember that your rough draft needs to be handwritten. Your good copy needs to be done on the computer, and it is totally okay to choose a job that you don't have the qualifications for, or even one that you wouldn't really want. Okay, I am marking your writing. I am not marking whether what you wrote matches your actual qualifications. I have 87 students. I promise you, I am not looking up everything you know or every job you've ever done to find out. I'm just looking at the writing, okay? There are some sample letters that you can use to help set up the formatting in Google Docs. Remember that you have Google Docs. You may not realize it, may not have used it, but you have a student Gmail because you're a student at WASA, and it comes as part of that package. So I'm going to show you how to find it in case you haven't used it before. Hopefully you have, but if not, here we go. So to find it, you're going to log into your Google account first of all. Then you go to the upper right-hand corner of your computer screen, and there should be like a little circle there, and it will have one of your initials. And next to it, you can see there's a little thing of dots. Let me just kind of, well, let me do that. Hang on. All right, see those little dots? There we go. Okay, if you click on that little section, then all these little apps will come up, and you can move it down. There's more apps down here too. It generally kind of shows the ones that you use more often up here, as far as I know. Some of these won't show up. Like I have Classroom because I'm a teacher. I don't think it would show up in yours, for example. Once this shows up, look for the blue icon that says Docs on it. It may not be in the exact same spot as mine. It might be down here, might be on the next second page, but take a look for it. Once you click on it, things will pop up. Let me show you what pops up. Okay, this is what should pop up on the top of your screen. So usually if you're doing stuff, you can just grab a blank, and you can grab a blank for this too, by the way. You do not have to use these templates. They're just there to help you. I personally liked the spearmint format best, but there's also the Swiss. This is a resume, not really a letter. There's a little green line up top, but you don't have to use that. Hang on, let me show you what I mean. Okay, so this came up. Now, let's say I didn't want this. Can I click on it? I know I did it before. Okay, there we go. I could get rid of it completely, or I could change the color on it if I wanted to, okay? That's totally up to you. You'd put your name, your address, your city, your number, your Gmail. Here, they've got the date in between as well. That is not how I've seen it done. I've usually seen the date down here, but since they have it as well, go ahead and put it there. That's fine. And then the company name, right? Whatever they've listed in the ad is what you're going to list too. So they address it to the CEO. It may not tell you what job title they have. If it does, mention it. If they're the hiring manager, mention it. If they're the human resources clerk, mention it. If it says they're the owner or the manager, mention it. Whatever it said in the ad, write that here. Then you put your greeting, and then you do your little paragraphs. And you can see it's not a lot of writing. You only have the one page. And honestly, this stuff takes up a huge amount of space. So you got to be really concise. Then you've got your close, then you've got your name. And usually you do like a written signature as well, just to show it's really you and not like a robot. I don't know why, but we do. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, so rough draft. Remember, it's handwritten. First of all, write your name, your address, ways to contact you, phone, email, fax. Then you include their contact information. Also, between the two so far, it seems like you should enter the date of application. This is important because some people keep resumes around for a really long time. Like my old boss used to keep them around, just keep in a drawer. When somebody quit, he just yanked them out. But knowing the date of application was kind of helpful because if you applied 2 years ago, then obviously they may not keep it forever, right? After you've got that part done, write the greeting. If the ad tells you their name, then use that. I really say don't write their title unless they wrote their title. If they wrote Mr. James Smith, then you would write that. If they wrote Dr. James Smith, you would write that. Don't use the Mr., Mrs., or Ms. unless they include it because it's just so controversial these days. If they don't tell you a name, then you can often just write Dear Sir or Madame. Okay. Don't forget the comma. See the little comma after the greeting? You've got to have that there. Then you would leave a space or two before you start your first paragraph. Your first paragraph always starts with mentioning what job posting you're applying to. A big company, like if you're applying to the hospital, they may have anywhere from 10 to 60 job postings at one time. If you've done the exact same job or a very similar job in the past, this is the place to put it so that it's one of the first things they see. So for example, I'm writing to apply for the job of full-time cashier advertised on the Sue Hudson job board on the date of, we might mention the date. As a cashier at Giant Tiger for the last 2 years. Oh, I have the experience and ability to do this job well, and I would love to apply for the opportunity to work in this new business. I think my idea was that it was a job with a new company and you'd previously worked at Giant Tiger. I think I read that wrong. So it's not a whole lot there, okay? Then there's usually 2 or 3 very short paragraphs after that. You're trying to sell yourself as the perfect candidate. So this is a form of persuasive writing, right? It is not just a summary. You're not just summarizing who you are, you're trying to sell it, right? Because you're trying to persuade the reader, whether it's the manager or the boss or the human resource person, to hire you for the job. So you do want to mention what experience do you have that would qualify you for this job? If you haven't done that exact job, have you done something similar? What training or education have you had that might relate? Maybe you've had first aid training, or maybe you need a driver's license for the job, or heavy machinery training, or whatever gets mentioned in the ad. If you've got it, obviously mention that right away. What skills do you bring? Those can be soft skills like organizational skills, or it can be specific skills like certain computer skills, like I know how to use Excel, or I'm wonderful at creating documents out of Word. Cashier experience, wonderful ability to problem solve fixing machines. Your personality traits. Often what I've seen is people mention their personality traits either in the first paragraph or they tie them into their skills. Like I have a determined ability to problem solve fixing machines. I have an ability to ring through purchases with a friendly attitude, right? So you mention what personality traits they're looking for. And it's not always the same, right? Somebody who's looking for a sales manager is different than somebody who might be looking for a data entry clerk or somebody who's, say, a translator, right? Different jobs require different personalities. There isn't just one personality that's the perfect personality for every job, right? Short paragraphs are often easier to read. Remember that cover letters never go over a page, so you're going to have to be very brief while getting across your most important information. Closing the letter, the last paragraph usually suggests an interest for coming in for an interview and ways to contact them. It's usually very upbeat and confident, and then you leave a space, you write your closing sincerely and your name. Okay, so this is the very vague mark sheet. Here's a checklist I made, okay? After you've done your rough copy, do a quick look through. Do you have a clear audience? Is your purpose been stated? Like, I'm writing to apply for a job. A formal tone. Have you included your important skills? Have you included your important personality traits? Have you highlighted your most important work experience? Followed the letter format, right? It's not an essay, it's a letter. Your rough copy needs to be in handwriting, and your good copy is on the computer and has significant changes. Before you finish your rough copy, check this and then check it again when you've done your good copy. You don't need to hand it in. It's just for your benefits that you know what I'm looking for. Okay, so we have a little bit of time left. I'm going to talk about prepositions. I kind of put the preposition, my grammar stuff last today because I knew that we need to kind of get through all that cover letter stuff. There are all sorts of great samples of how to word things on the internet. If you're stuck on how to phrase things, by all means, go ahead and look at them, but don't copy them directly. I do check for plagiarism, okay? So if you see an article like a sample resume for, cover letter for applying for a cashier, don't copy it word for word, okay? Because when I check, it will come up and then you would lose the marks. So please be careful on that front. Grammar. Okay, we haven't talked about prepositions. I'm kind of surprised we haven't discussed it. If we did, I think we discussed it in a very brief fashion. So I wanted to kind of talk about it more. A preposition is a word or a group of words used before a noun, a pronoun, or a noun phrase. And they generally show direction, time, place, location, spatial relationships, or they introduce an object. It's generally being used to connect one group of words to the rest of the sentence and indicate their relationship to each other. So, for example, if I say, Jack went over the bridge, over is the preposition in front of the phrase, the bridge. It's connecting the bridge to the verb went and explaining that he went over the bridge as compared to under or on top or beside. Some examples of prepositions are words like in, at, on, of, or to. Prepositions can indicate different types of relationships. They can indicate time, place and location, direction, the agent, like who did the action, the instrument, how an instrument was used, the manner, the way or how something's been done, the purpose, the reason or purpose for something happening, possession, who or how is it owned, the source or the origin of something. So let me kind of walk through this a little bit. Possessive pronouns show ownership or belonging. So for example, if I say the car was given to her, okay, so her, whoever she is, owns it and it was given. This gift is for Dad. The house was built by my grandfather. The textbooks belong to the school. So those first ones all showed ownership. They showed who owned something, essentially. The next ones show belonging. I am a leader in the group. I have a membership with the club. She made it on the cheerleading team. Now, I want to point out some of these words, they can be used in more than one way. Like I could say somebody's on the fridge or they're on the cheerleading team. And that's kind of what makes prepositions tricky. A lot of them have multiple meanings. Okay, so here are some prepositions of time, during and for, until or till, since, from and to, ago, before, by and after, to, past, between, and within. I want to kind of talk specifically about the two phrases. So sometimes the prepositions are used kind of as a team. So they lived in New York between 1998 and 2004. So it's kind of a little prepositional phrase here. Okay. Her visit will extend from Monday to Thursday. Again, it's a little prepositional phrase. It's just split up by the actual words. Let me see. I was having trouble earlier getting these things to come up. I don't know if it'll come up now or not.
Oh, the first day that we signed up for Monday.com, our department was already able to connect our processes.
Okay.
ESL library.
I'm just going to jump ahead a little bit.
Place and direction. Let's learn about prepositions of time. Prepositions of time show when something happens. Common prepositions of time are at, on, and in. For example, I eat breakfast at 7 a.m. The party is on September 8th. Flowers grow in the spring. We use the preposition at with clock times. We eat dinner at 6:30 p.m. He goes to school at 8:45 a.m. We also use at for other times. I watch TV at night. They eat in the cafeteria at lunchtime. We use the preposition on with days of the week. She has a job interview on Monday. We always play baseball on Fridays. We also use on for dates. The students have a test on October 2nd. My birthday is on April 19th.
All right, so I'm going to pause that because I think you've got the, oh, wait, maybe I better let you do have some of the in as well. Hang on a second.
We use the preposition in with the time of day. She drinks coffee in the morning. They go to the gym in the afternoon. We also use in for months and years. My mother plants vegetables in May. I graduated in 2019. We use in for seasons too. We go to the beach in the summer. They go snowboarding in the winter.
Okay, I'm going to pause us there. So I wish English were slightly easier in that it had one type that you just used all the time. Unfortunately, we just don't. You have to kind of like learn it. And again, I know different languages don't always use prepositions in the same way, right? Or they might use the same preposition. Instead, we've got like all these different ways we can talk about time. So often I find these are kind of words that can be tricky or that sometimes get dropped when people are writing quickly. Okay. So we might have time for one quick page on prepositions of time, and then we'll do the rest next tomorrow, I guess. So something winter, the snow will be deep. In winter, on winter, or since winter. Well, so we just watched that helpful video. We know we use in with the seasons. I always go camping to the summer, at the summer, or during. Now, I could say in the summer, but because I think of it as something that's happening over a period of time, that's why I ended up using the word during. He likes to work out, blank, he goes to work. Since he goes to work, at he goes to work, or before he goes to work. Okay, so before, he's not working out at work. It's two different activities and one is happening before the other. It is 10 minutes from 3, ago 3, or to 3. So 2-3 means it's before 3. It's not quite 3. School starts since 9, during 9, or at 9. We use at with the clock times. You will get your check in the mail ago 10 business days, before 10 business days, or within. Within, because they're giving you a time frame, right? It's only been 3 weeks, blank, I started chemo. Since I started chemo, before I started chemo, or for. I wouldn't use before because we're talking about something in the past tense. For doesn't work either, so it's basically going to be the word since. I'm going to grab a nap during half an hour, for half an hour, or until half an hour. For this one, I would say generally for, right? Oop, wait. I'm going to have a nap for half an hour. So this is just an example. I know these can be a little bit tricky. They are something to keep an eye on when you're doing your revisions. I'm going to tackle this one tomorrow. I'm just really quickly going to put a little star on there so I remember where I was. I find that's pretty helpful for me. All right, we will tackle the rest of this tomorrow. You've got your assignment. There is all sorts of great information on cover letters out on the internet. By all means, take a look at it to give yourself some ideas. Take a look at the Sioux Lookout Hudson board or the latest Sioux Bulletin. And remember that it doesn't have to be a job you would actually apply for, just one that you want to do for the writing assignment, okay? Thank you so much, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow.